Thank you. Hey, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have you here. It's exciting. Like Derek talked about, it's Army-Navy over. We get 2 stars. I think women's just kicked off a few minutes ago, and then men basketball is going to kick off in about an hour and a half. So it's exciting anytime there's stars on the line and stars on the line. We're 2 down. We need to win these games. Okay, so everybody throw a good vibe that way. It's great to have you here. I'm always so excited for this weekend. When we do Commissioning 101, because it's a chance to get all these parents together. Well, first of all, how many firstie parents do we have? That's usually, okay, I should ask the other way. How many second-class parents? Yeah, so there's quite a few there that are trying to get the gouge. Any youngster parents here? I'm a youngster parent, so I guess I'll count for that, right? It's such a great weekend to try to provide this information to you because it is a busy week. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. I graduated in 1996. Like I said, I have a class of 27 youngster over there. You know, when I ask him how he's doing, he probably responds how your sons and daughters respond. You know, one word, good, you know, bad, okay, physics is terrible, you know, like something along those lines. So what we're trying to do is fill in some of those gaps because I guarantee you the Naval Academy and the Commandant's Office is putting out information and will be putting out information about Commissioning Week. And so when you ask your son and daughter, you know, have you been told about this? And they say, no, that's probably not true, okay? If they're like my son, they probably just haven't listened or they probably are not communicating it to you, but they are putting it out there. I got a chance to serve as the Deputy Commandant of Midshipmen for a few years, where I was kind of the vice principal, the bad guy in charge of making sure all these midshipmen got it. And every year I'm surprised with parents saying, you need to communicate more. And I'm saying, well, we're telling your sons and daughters, they're just not telling you. So start asking them questions now, okay? What we're gonna go over today, all these slides are gonna be available. We're recording it as well. So if you see something up there, if you wanna take a picture with your phone, that's okay, but understand these are gonna be provided to you later as well, okay? So like I said, we're here to support your sons and daughters, give you the gouge. Who's heard that term before, gouge? How many grads do I have in here? So the gouge. That's information. We're here to give you the gouge on what this week is going to look like. Now, there's a saying within the brigade and in Mother B over there that says, you live and you die by the gouge, too. Okay, and what I mean by that is this information that we tell you is accurate now to some degree. It's going to change a little bit as we get closer, okay? So Donnie's going to go over those websites. Like I said, I served as the Deputy Commandant. Donnie was in charge of special events over there for many years. He's done half a dozen commissioning weeks, planning them, setting them up. So one of us should be able to answer a question that you have. Okay, let's get going. All right, like I said, want to talk, the main point is that point 3, Commissioning Week, but before I do so, I always like to talk about who we are just very briefly as an alumni association and foundation. That's that AA and F. The Alumni Association and Foundation, 2 separate groups, 2 separate non-federal entities that work in this building to work together to support the Academy and support our alumni. So the Alumni Association, that's who's kind of putting on this event right now. We're in charge of the parent groups, the chapters, all our classes, who's gotten Shipmate Magazine, or seen some social media before. That's all the Alumni Association. We're trying to connect our alumni together and make sure they feel connected to the Academy and let them know what's happening over there. Now, the foundation side of things, think of it as our money-raising side to support the Academy. And when I say, so why do we need to raise money to support the Naval Academy? Doesn't the federal government do that? To an extent, right? They keep the heat on, they keep the lights on, to make sure the buildings aren't crumbling around our midshipmen. But much of the goodness you see over there is from the graciousness and the generosity of all of you and me and people that support the Naval Academy. You think about all the international programs, paying for some of the salaries of these top-notch professors. I mean, there's a reason we're the #1 public institution in the nation, because of the people we bring in to teach your sons and daughters. Right? All the sports stuff you see over there, the beautiful tracks, the beautiful facilities, that comes from all of us. And so I just bring that up because that's the foundation side of doing things. And much of that generosity comes from parents. Okay, so I've got Karen Hicks back here. Karen, if you would say hello very quickly. Karen is in charge of all our parent programs within the foundation as far as providing you information on how you can give, whether it be your treasure, whether it be your time, and that sort of thing. So Karen and Lori work hand in hand to support the parents around here. Okay, so we're going to go over some spring highlights as well. See if I can get this thing going. Okay, just throw up the slide if you want to. Again, these will be available later, but you have Karen's email down there that she can speak to you about how you can support. And keep in mind, we have many, many parents who, even after their sons and daughters graduate, stay involved. Because this experience for you, who was this new? Who had nobody in the military before your son and daughter came to the Naval Academy? I see a show. Yeah, there's always quite a few. So it's a big change. And so staying involved is always important for folks. Okay. See? All right, things coming up. It gets, all of a sudden spring is upon us. We get about 3 weeks in January where things slow down just a touch, and then they ramp right up again. Sons and daughters probably had their service assignment for the firsties, service assignment dinners, where they get to meet, their community, who they're going to be a part of. They get to put on that flight suit that's nice and wrinkled, and they're hoping to break in. It's always fun to watch the aviators or future aviators do that. Training report dates. If they haven't already, they're going to start hearing when they get to go to flight school, when they get to go to SWAS, when they report to their ship, all these different things. And if they're like me, who didn't go to flight school for 6 months, they'll start figuring out where they're going to be temporarily assigned. So exciting times for them. Along with that, we got some regimental receptions that we put on for all your sons and daughters, and we welcome them into the Alumni Association. We've got different summits and leadership forums that we're conducting. Spring parades, there's 3 parades this year. I know the midshipmen are really bummed that there's not more. I guarantee you right now, there's someone over in the brigade doing a rain dance for the 4th, 11th, and 25th of April right now. They are doing their best. I hope the weather comes in. But then shortly after that, final exams, sea trials, Herndon, all this, it's just exciting. Okay, part of that is to show you the spring gets very busy. Part of that also is to, especially for the first class parents, I want you to listen to me very closely. As the Deputy Commandant of Midshipmen, as the Vice Principal, every year I would be forced to take 2 or 3 first-class midshipmen and look them in the eye, and sometimes later look their parents in the eye and say, congratulations, you're going to graduate, but it ain't going to be in May. Because of something that happened, okay? I beg you, tell your midshipmen, stay focused. Right now, they're thinking about spring break. They're thinking about what apartment they're going to rent out in Eastport while they're, they're thinking about all these commissioning week parties. Talk to them and say, stay focused for another 90-some days, okay, please? Because the worst thing is to be at the graduation ball and a parent come up to me and say, or come up to me and say, I appreciate you disciplining my son, but this is a really tough commissioning week without them graduating. So stay focused, okay? All right, that's my down part. I want to bring you back up. All right. There's so much fun to commissioning week. There's so much to do. And Donnie, like I said, have gone through this so often, and I have done this with him as well. Any questions you have once he's done going through this, please ask. We're filming it as well. We can make sure these slides are available, but please ask. There's no dumb questions, okay? Fair enough? All right. Donnie, why don't you come on up here? We're going to go through everything from parking to weather to wearing the proper shoes, everything to show you so you can enjoy commissioning week. Thank you.
So good morning, Donnie Kennedy, class of 92. Was a Navy helicopter pilot, spent 30 years in the Navy. Was fortunate to come back here for my last 5 years or so. Worked on the yard and had the pleasure of planning commissioning week for many weeks. So all that being said, despite all my experience in planning commissioning week, there are 2 really, really important things I want you to get out of this discussion today. And the first one is check the website. Check the website. The Naval Academy's website is the authoritative data. So everything that we're talking about, it's going to rhyme, but it may not repeat exactly what was done in the past. And the second most important thing today is 6 tickets. talk about that in a minute, because that's what you're all dying to talk about, our tickets for graduation. So when you look at this picture here, that doesn't seem that long ago, does it? So congratulations on the journey. In many ways, it's been a long journey, but time goes by really fast. And I know you're really proud of your sons and daughters. And this week is a fantastic week to celebrate alongside. And hopefully this information will make you enjoy it a little bit more. Okay, so again, Commissioning Week website, usna.edu/commissioning week. This is what the 2024, if you log onto that page right now, this is what you'll see, or that's what I saw yesterday afternoon. So sometime between now and about spring break, they'll update this, this website. This website will have the schedule of events. It'll have some maps, have all the gate hours, all the shuttle information, and all that kind of stuff will be linked to from this website. So if you click on the schedule button, you would see something that looks about like that. And again, that's a 2024 schedule. It's really small. I know you can't read it, but you'll find all that information on the website when you go there. Okay, this is our website, the Alumni Association and Foundation. This is our social media. We work in close partnership with the Naval Academy. We will amplify things that go on in the yard. We will pass along information as we get it. You'll see there's actually a link to this brief. I'm not sure if I can read it on this this picture right now, but the link to this brief is on this web page here. So lots of great resources. Encourage you to check this out early and often. But again, if there's a conflict between the data on this web page and the Naval Academy web page, which one is the authoritative data? The Naval Academy web page, right? All right, so this is the typical schedule, and this is updated for the draft schedule for this year. So there might be some minor adjustments, but this is roughly correct. Okay, Commissioning Week technically begins on Friday evening with the Jewish Baccalaureate service, and then Saturday night is ring dance for the second class, and then most of the activities will start on Sunday afternoon or Monday. One of the highlights of the week are the superintendent's receptions and garden parties. With the change to 36 companies and with a new superintendent, they've changed the schedule up for the garden parties a little bit. So this is the draft. It may not be the final, but there will be assigned garden parties for every company between Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And we'll talk more about garden parties in a minute. There are lots of award ceremonies throughout the week, and those dates and times may change, but this was the most recent draft schedule that we have. For those of you that have midshipmen that might be receiving an award, and there are probably a lot of your midshipmen will be receiving some type of award, you ought to ask them, hey, by any chance you're getting an award during commissioning week? We'd just like to know. You know, because they may not tell you until 15 minutes prior to the start time, you know, and it would be a real shame if you missed out on them getting a key leadership award or academic award because they were a little bit modest or distracted or whatever it may be. So just have that in mind. There are a lot of them. They're spread throughout the week. The departmental awards, the Commandant Leadership Awards, things like that throughout the week, and then the big prizes and awards ceremony on Thursday afternoon. On Tuesday, any Marine parents here? Okay, so this is a big one. So there's a Marine family orientation on Tuesday morning. I think, what does it say, 10 o'clock? Yeah, about 10 o'clock over in Alumni Hall. And immediately preceding that will be the Marine Corps 8th and I Battle Colors Detachment parade on the parade field. Tuesday and Wednesdays, the biggest activities in those days are the Blue Angels, and we'll talk about that more in depth. And if you'll notice right there in green on Wednesday is a very, very early event, but it's a very important event. It is the graduation rehearsal at 7 o'clock. And so, again, your sons and daughters will be very tuned into this. They might need a little bit of help getting out the door on time to make this very important milestone on time. The superintendent will remind them at that ceremony that they're not graduated until about 12:30 on Friday afternoon. So it's critical that they make this event on time for that rehearsal. The grab ball is also on Wednesday evening. Thursday is the color parade, yard-wide prizes award ceremony, and then the graduation ceremony on Friday. Talk about all those in a little bit more. Okay, one of the more important slides, logistics. Every family will get one stadium parking pass, and they'll get this from Bancroft Hall. They'll give it to your midshipman, who can give it to you. Again, that's one of those communication items before you roll into town. Things like parking passes and graduation tickets will all be distributed to your midshipman. You can purchase extra lot parking throughout the week, $10 a day per vehicle. If anyone, this is not covered, this is a car. This is not to cover like an RV. So if you're coming into town with an RV and you have those type of arrangements, you might want to coordinate in advance with Naval Academy Stadium parking over there. They can accommodate you, but it's probably going to be slightly more than $10 a day, and they'll have specific directions for you if that's your category. Throughout the week, there'll be shuttle buses that will run from the stadium to the Naval Academy. Highly, highly, highly recommend park at the stadium, use the shuttle bus, dial down the temperature, and don't worry about the traffic. They do special traffic patterns for the buses to get them on and off the yard. Just eliminate the stress of traffic during the week. You might think it takes a little bit longer to get under the yard, but you don't have to worry about trying to find a parking spot. And we'll talk about in a minute, you're probably not going to be able to park on the yard anyway. So just, again, highly encourage you to use the buses, use the shuttles. For those of you who have DBIDS cards, during the week, during the daytime hours, they will not allow you to use your DBIDS card to drive on to the Naval Academy. Okay, this is an attempt to reduce traffic. They want to push you to the stadium to use the buses. Usually in the evening time, after sunset, they'll allow parents to use the DBIDS cards to drive on late evening. Your midshipmen will always be able to drive on using their military ID, and they can always escort access onto the installation. Does that make sense? Okay. Anticipate lots of traffic in the Annapolis area. You have Blue Angels in particular. Those 2 days are some of the worst traffic days in Annapolis, between the Blue Angels show, graduation, other things that are going on in the Annapolis area, Bay Bridge traffic. It all just creates absolute gridlock. So again, park and ride, be patient, be smart in your planning. On Tuesday or Wednesday, if you're going to the air show, don't plan on dinner at 4:30 out in town. You're not going to make it. You give yourself plenty of time on those 2 days. Okay, tickets. This is the other part that you're most interested in. Your midshipmen will get 6 graduation tickets, and they will be assigned in their company spaces. If you need additional tickets, so I had, no kidding, had this question a couple years ago. What if you have a family of 28? Okay, and it was a legitimate question. You will get 6 tickets. And there are also tickets in overflow, and I'll show you pictures of what this looks like in a minute, so it'll make more sense. So there are plenty of tickets for all of your family and guests and all that. So tell them all to come enjoy the day. But in your immediate seating section for your company, your midshipman's company, you're going to get 6 tickets. Now, there may be some family that comes into town and only needs 2, or their family may not make graduation, or they only need 4. And so inside the company, sometimes there's some bartering and swapping of tickets, and you can work through your midshipmen for that if you have maybe 7 or maybe 8. But go through your midshipmen, let them work in their company networks, and then if you need more than the allocated tickets, they will get you seating in the overflow area. Indoor commencement, you get 4 tickets. Alumni Hall is very, very tight for an indoor graduation, and unfortunately, that's the maximum number of tickets that we can provide for an indoor commencement ceremony. Again, I have another slide on indoor commencement. Indoor color parade. If the color parade goes indoors, they skinny the parade down to 4 companies: the outgoing color company, the new color company, and 2 additional companies in there just for the visual reference there. So the 4 companies total, and you'll get 4 tickets for your family for the indoor color And again, the Soups garden parties that we talked about earlier, you get 4 tickets for your family plus your midshipman. Now, all your companies will be assigned days and times for the superintendent's reception. But occasionally there's some conflicting events during the week and that time doesn't work for you, or maybe you're coming in not until Monday and your superintendent's reception was scheduled on Sunday. That's okay. So as long as you have your tickets, you can take your tickets to any of the allocated parties. Please try to go in your company time. But the ladies of protocol will allow you to attend if you have a conflict. Again, 4 tickets plus your midshipman. Okay, planning considerations. Weather. Weather in Annapolis in May is unpredictable. It may range from cold to hot, sunny and rainy all on the same day. The story I like to tell is when I graduated, I grew up in Mississippi. My parents came up here into May and back home. It was always pressing 90 to 100 degrees already. And I said, hey, this is not the deep South. Be prepared for some cooler weather. And they didn't listen to what I said. And so I have a great family photo of everybody in my family wearing one of my sweatshirts, because they were all cold the whole week. So, but just be prepared. So it could be warm, it could be cold all on the same day. The weather may change whether we go indoor and outdoor for some of these activities. For the most part, we try to do them outside to preserve the event to the max extent. They're not the same when we go indoors. So for those weather alternates, those calls come really, really late. A couple of years ago, 2022, we had a big weather event that rolled through town. 6:30 in the morning was when we decided that we were definitely going outside of the stadium. So no news is good news. And check your social media. That's where they'll push all that out. And they'll tell your midshipman, and obviously your midshipman can notify you. But they're going to make that call as late as they possibly can in order to preserve that event. Mobility. As most of you know, you've been on the yard before. It's not your first rodeo. If you are on the yard, if you have handicap hang tags, you can always drive onto the yard, and there will be parking in the vicinity of the midshipman store. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee you're close to where you're going. So, if that's the case for you or your family, bringing parents in and grandparents in, just plan. Give yourself plenty of time. The yard has e-cruisers that will move around gym cars that will move around the campus, and they're pretty good about assisting in that regard. But there's a lot of walking, long days. Just take that into consideration. Dress. They're casual events. They're formal events. If you go to the graduation ball, so you had the full range. But just make sure you wear comfortable shoes. So it's heels and stilettos on the yard are not a good mix for commissioning week. The days are long. They start early. They end late. And then a lot of times you have family events back at your home and things like that. So take that into consideration as well. Medical care. If you have a medical emergency for you or your family, and it happens from time to time, particularly heat exhaustion, things like that, Navy Medical will assist in any kind of triage or response, but they will call an outside ambulance and have you transported to a civilian doctor. The military corpsmen, military doctors will not treat civilian patients. So if there's a medical emergency on the yard, they will respond. They'll call an ambulance, or they'll call medical services, and then we'll escort you into town as appropriate. And then also we have the commencement will be streamed on social media. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. All right, expectations. This may be the second most important slide. I recommend sometime between now and graduation, you have a great two-way conversation with your midshipman. As TJ said, a lot of times you just, how are things going? Okay, good, no. But talk with your midshipman about expectations. There's a lot of things going on in this week. You have lots of expectations. You might be bringing your large family into town. You're all really excited about this. You're proud of your son or daughter. It's also a very emotional time for them too, because now that they're a couple days away from graduation, the finality of this experience and a little bit of the apprehension of what comes next, they have some difficult emotions that they're weighing through as well during that week. And they want to maximize that time with their friends and their classmates who they know they're going to be departing in the next couple of days. So just be aware of that and have some conversations. You know, overscheduling, if you're wanting to do something with the family back at the house, just make sure you're having those kind of conversations and that your idea of the week aligns closely with that of your daughter or son, and that'll be beneficial for you both. Okay, Blue Angels. This is my favorite topic. This is the best topic. I've probably been to 100 of these shows. It never gets old. This is the greatest show on earth, and it's the greatest place to see this air show here at the Naval Academy. So, so we'll spend a little bit of time here. There are 2 days for the Blue Angels, Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as the graduation flyover. On Tuesday, provided the weather is good, they'll come in the morning and they'll do what they call a circle on arrival. And all that is, they'll fly around and they find their checkpoints. So they go fly up and down the river. They'll have a boat in the river. There's a bus up on the bridge, and they'll look and they'll find all their checkpoints. And it's just usually the opposing solos. It's not the full team. They'll come out. They'll survey everything. They go back to Andrews. They'll land. They'll gas back up, and they come back in the afternoon for the practice show about 2 o'clock. Okay. If all that goes well, then they do the practice show. The practice show is the exact same show as the air show on Wednesday. There's no difference between the two. So a little bit of gouge. If the weather is really, really good on Tuesday, don't miss the Tuesday show just because it's the practice show. If the weather's great, go see it because you might get the full high show, and then maybe on Wednesday it's cloudy and you don't get to see the whole show. So I had a midshipman once that skipped the air show on Tuesday, and the weather was really bad on Wednesday, and they didn't get to see the show. They're really disappointed. So it's the same show. Go early, go often. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it. Wednesday is the formal show. If everything went well on Tuesday as far as weather and they flew all their checkpoints and they did the practice show, then there's no morning flight activity or no flight box between 11 and 1, and the only fly window is 2 to 4 that afternoon. And I'll show you some slides in a minute and why that kind of makes sense on the closures around Annapolis. And then on Friday, they'll do the flyover for graduation exactly 10:04 a.m., and you can set your clock by. Okay, this is the air show box. And again, all these slides will be up on the website. So you'll see everything in red up there is inside the air show box. There's a star in the middle of the Severn River, and that star will be a YP, and that's the center point for the air show. So when the opposing solos cross, it'll be right above that YP right there in the middle of the Severn River. If you look at the inset on the right side of the slide, you'll see a yellow box and you'll see the red box. So the yellow box is everything is recommended viewing locations for the air show. You see Ingram Field over there. There's actually a narrator out near Ingram Field near the track. That's closest to the center of the show, and that's a real popular place for people to go watch the air show. You also see the yellow triangle on Hospital Point. That's another popular place. Actually, that's my favorite place to watch the air show is actually on Hospital Point because you can actually see up College Creek. You can see around the Chapel Dome. So you kind of really get kind of the 3D view of the air show from there. So good places to watch the air show. If it's in red, that'll be an area that's inside the flight box. And when the flight box goes active, you can't be in that area, okay? So you can't stand in that area. More importantly, if you have a vehicle and you park in that area, you're not going to move until the air show is over. So every year there's someone, usually a retiree or an active duty person that drives onto the yard early in the morning. They park in that area and they try to leave, and they get really frustrated because people won't let them out of the area because the air show box is active. So just be aware of that. Again, theme for the week. go to the stadium, park and ride, be patient with your expectations. So they also will cone off a lot of the parking on the yard on the air show day to make sure there's emergency response lanes to get to the air show area if required. So you don't want to have your car parked in one of those coned off areas on air show day because they will remove your car. The air show boxes, once they're active, they'll close the river, and they'll also close the Naval Academy Bridge. And so the Naval Academy, the bridge is right outside Gate 8 over toward Severna Park. So those are the large windows, 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday. The Naval Academy Bridge, a little bit shorter window. If they finish the Circle and Arrival on time, if all that goes on time, they may open up in the middle, in between the practice in the morning and the show in the afternoon. If there's an hour or two in there, they may open the bridge back up. But it's not always a guarantee because the weather's not always cooperative on that. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, I know it sounds confusing. So the river closure, I'd never really thought about that a lot for parents until like last year, and I got a lot of questions about boats. People that were actually renting boats to go out and watch the show. So once that box goes active, you cannot navigate along the Severn River inside that box. So if you're up the Severn River from the bridge and you're going to spend your whole day up there, fantastic. If you're out in the bay and you're going to spend your whole day out there, fantastic. But you're not going to be able to transit that area when the show box is active, if that makes sense. And that's all the real boat gouge I can probably give you. But again, if they finish the training event on Tuesday, the Circle and Arrival, and they do the practice show, then they don't close off the river on Wednesday. They don't close the bridge off on Wednesday until about 1:45. Okay, so during the air show days, we already talked about D-bids on the yard, but the traffic gates are closed to all non-faculty and staff on that Tuesday and Wednesday during the air show periods of time. And we talked about some of the areas in the yard that are blocked off because it's in the show box, mostly around Sims Road, around the soccer field, and then around Farragut Field over there. Again, if you have a hang tag for accessible parking, they will allow you to park on the yard, usually the mid-store parking lot, and then sometimes alongside Dewey Field as the overflow. Again, parking and theme on the yard. It's a good picture there of what we want the yard to look like during commissioning week. We want it to be very pedestrian friendly. We don't want people to be walking through traffic the entire time during a busy week. Your midshipmen will be able to continue to drive onto the yard. They can escort you. And again, we talked about the limited amount of disability parking on the yard. This is the schedule for graduation day. We do not know who the guest speaker is. Last year, it was the Secretary of Defense. There is an individual who likes to come to graduation a lot, but we don't know anything. So we don't know if it's a Secret Service year or not. If it's a Secret Service year, the schedule is the same, but you just really need to back your planning up to the left and give yourself ample time to get into the stadium, particularly if you want to get there in time to see the procession at 9 o'clock. So the stadium opens at 6 a.m. for cars to get into the parking lot. Stadium opens at 7 o'clock. If it's a Secret Service year, I would want to be standing in line before the stadium opens. Get into the stadium. NAAA is going to have all the concession stands all there to take good care of you between then and the start time. So get there early, get situated, and if it happens to be a Secret Service year. But again, I don't know that. At 9 o'clock is the midshipman procession. I'm going to show you a slide in a minute that'll show you the two sides of the stadium and where your midshipmen will be seated on the field. It's kind of important that you park on the side of the stadium where you're going to be sitting. If you park on the blue side and you're trying to go to the gold side and you get there late and you're trying to, then the midshipmen start processing, then they'll stop movement through the stadium and you won't be able to get to your seats. It's a Secret Service year. They'll stop both behind the end zone and the procession until everything is settled with the presidential arrival. So again, know where you're parking, know where you're sitting in the stadium. The ceremony starts at 10 o'clock, lasts approximately 2.5 hours. You have the hat toss at about 12:30. We made a change a couple of years ago. It used to be toward the end of the ceremony, all the kids could get down on the field with a tinsel line. They'd stand on the field. And then we changed that during COVID, and I think we've left it this way now, where we ask you to keep your sons and daughters up in the stadium until the end of the ceremony. They can start coming down toward the field at the very, very end, but not until they toss the covers, where they actually allow your children onto the field to pick up covers, collect covers. What's that? Oh, does everybody kind of understand the tradition with a hat toss? Or they throw their covers, and usually midshipmen, in a lot of cases, they'll leave some money. My kids actually got a nice letter one year or something like that. So again, very popular tradition, and we just try to keep the kids off the field until that hat toss is done, just for the safety of your children. Okay, the stadium does have a clear bag policy, so if you'll refer to that for everything they'll allow into the stadium. They'll allow you to bring your cameras if you got a big video camera, a big 35 millimeter, whatever it is, digital camera. They'll allow you to bring your camera set up. You start getting into your large tripods and all that kind of stuff is when it gets to be problematic. So no umbrellas. But if there's anything you have a question on, it's on that page right there. You can find on AAA's website as well. Same for home football games. This slide, you're not going to be able to read the detail on it, but the most important thing is to see that the blue side are the odd companies, and the gold side are the even companies. And this just kind of orients. This is the Blue Angel over here. So this is Taylor Avenue right here. I think this is gate 5, right? So if you're parking on the blue side, you want to come in gate 5. If you're parking on gold, you want to go in gate 6 or gate 7. And my apologies on this slide. We didn't update this slide to include the 31 to 36 company. Should have known better. I was 34th company back in the day. So, but it's the same. Odds on one side and then evens are on the other. Okay. Adverse weather. I think we talked about that a little bit. We really try to go outside. We have about 10 to 12 different versions of the graduation ceremony, depending on the severity of the weather. So that they will try to do everything they can do, even if it's a very abbreviated, shortened ceremony. They'd rather do that outside than go inside into Alumni Hall. If it's a rain-shortened event, they'll usually hand out dummy diplomas or won't hand out diplomas at all. And I'll show you where your midshipman can pick up, your graduate can pick up their diplomas afterwards. If the event goes indoors at Alumni Hall, you'll actually go to the stadium, you'll park at the stadium and take buses onto the yard. If it was a Secret Service year, you would actually go to the stadium, you would go into the stadium, clear the metal detectors, and then onto the buses, and then bus from the stadium to over here. And so we would clear everyone over at the stadium and then bus them to the yard after they've been searched. We do stream the ceremony live, whether it's indoor or outdoor. How many folks have rented a suite at the stadium for graduation? Okay, not a lot. For those folks that rented suites at the stadium, and in the unlikely event it was an indoor graduation, your suite is still live and active over at the stadium. So you could take your family of 4 over here, and the remainder of your family can go up to your suite and have your food and watch the graduation ceremony streamed right there in the comfort of your suite over there. So I did talk with Chris Morgenthaler at NAAA a couple days ago. She is mostly full over there, but there might be a little bit of availability. If you look in your program, you'll have her contact info in there if all of a sudden you said, hey, there's a suite availability at the stadium. I didn't know that. So take a look at that out. If you have any interest, please reach out to her. I know there's not much left, but there may be some availability. All right, so this is what the outdoor graduation looks like. Top 10%, top 10% of the class, the order and procession is different. So they will actually sit in numerical order from 1 to, what is it, 103, 113, or whatever the top 10% ends up being for that year. And they will go right to left across the stage. So a question was asked last brief, and honestly, I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to find out, and then I'll follow back up if anybody needs to know this one. But I'm not sure if you have a top 10% midshipman, I'm not sure they change the location of your seating. So if you're if you're sitting on the blue side, I think you still get blue side tickets. So I'm not sure. There may be some accommodation. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to put that question into the command operations staff and see if I can get a better answer on that. For everybody else, it works this way. The odd companies are on the blue side. The even companies are on the gold side. They process down the middle across the stage, and then they'll exit stage left and stage right. And they'll announce them from the first company, from the second company. So they come at the same time as they graduate. You can see in yellow, that is the company seating that we referred to earlier. So your midshipman will likely be in that area. And then everything in red is usually blocked off because of the view. In a Secret Service year, they definitely don't let anybody behind the stage, but normally we don't want anybody, you can't see if you're sitting back there. So the yellow area will be the area where the parents will be seated for the most part. And then the green area will be the general seating for the ceremony. Midshipmen typically, the underclass midshipmen typically sit in the horseshoe end of the stadium. And then depending on the commandant's policy of how many attend, some of them sit in the lower bleacher section where they sit during the football game. Purple. If we have rain or a shortened ceremony, the ceremony will be mostly the same, except for the fact that your diplomas will be handed out in the tents highlighted on the bottom of the slide. And they'll have like a plastic bag for them, and they'll give them a plastic bag, wrap it up for them so it doesn't get wet. Okay, that same tent, and you can see it circled in the bottom right, we'll also have a set of flags set up over there. So after the ceremony is over, if you want to do a one-on-one oath of office with a family member who might be a service member, you have a nice photo backdrop if you choose to go there. So after the ceremony is over, recommend you find a nice place for you to meet up. 50-yard line is generally not the best place to go. You might want to go for the 45 or the 30 or something a little bit more unique or whatever it is, but have a good idea of where you're going to rendezvous afterwards. And then just be patient. It'll be a little bit crowded, but it all seems to work out every year. You know, you want to talk through with your midshipmen about the plan afterwards. Usually, if they're Navy, there'll be an exchange of shoulder boards. You'll take the midshipman shoulder board off, put your officer shoulder board on. Don't forget the officer cover. If they're Marines, it's all shoulder devices, right? And not shoulder boards. But have a plan for that. Some people forget about that. I had a midshipman that we sponsored once, forgot about that, and she graduated and she went home in her midshipman insignia and stuff like that, which was a little disappointing. But anyway, so just have a conversation. And there's usually also another Navy tradition about the first salute. So whoever renders the first salute to your new graduate, usually your graduate will have a silver dollar, and we'll give that to the person who renders the first salute. Some people like to stage that. Some people like to just whoever the first random person is. I think Derek from USA has left. That's one of the things they give to your midshipmen. Is they'll give them a nice silver dollar for their first salute. Okay, any questions?
Remember to.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember to repeat the question.
The overflow tickets. You have to have a ticket to go into the stadium for graduation. So there are plenty of ways, faculty, staff can get tickets, but your midshipman, if you need an overflow ticket, just talk to your midshipman. They will be able to get that ticket. Yes, ma'am. So the question was rain for graduation. So we don't mind getting wet. We just don't like the lightning, right? So if it's convective, that's what drives us to changing the plan. That's a really good question. Well, yeah. So like a football game, if it's raining, we'll stand out there, we'll wrap the diplomas or we'll hand out dummy diplomas and we'll get wet. But if it's convective, like in 2022, we were watching the weather. So we started watching the weather at 4:30 in the morning, and we were watching it come all the way across Northern Virginia. And then we truncated the ceremony, and we actually had to evacuate the stadium that because the rain was so bad. Yes. I'm not sure if they get, they're probably different color tickets. If I remember, I can't remember what color they give you, but it's a different color ticket. Yeah. They do break it up roughly by company. I can't tell you exactly what that looks like, and I'm not sure how rigidly they enforce it. There are ushers there that'll help you. I always recommend getting to your seating and getting there early. If you're showing up late and you're wanting to sit in the exact spot and you've got a big group and you're trying to get them all together, it always doesn't line up, right? Yeah. Yes, sir. That's the seating section in the stadium. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not the company.
That's not the companies. That's not the companies. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. So if you want to go look on the 2024 schedule, you will see an example of last year's schedule. New superintendent, she's changing the schedule just a little bit, and there are 36 companies now, so they have to change that. So in about a week or two, when you go on to that schedule, you'll be able to see the exact schedule by company and time. But it's roughly 3 to 7:30, 3 to 8 every day, Sunday to Tuesday.
Yeah, they're not going to do it random. There'll be 1 through 12 companies probably on Sunday, 13 through 24 on Monday.
That's right.
But they're still figuring that out.
They do, and they do sometimes have an indoor alternate for the garden parties, and then so that just gets into it depends. It depends on how much rain, and they'll make the decision, and then they will adjust the plan, and they'll notify the impacted people. Yeah. Here's busy week. They had a great one after it. Fantastic.
So the reality is that if you have 30 young men and women all trying to plan their own, family parties, that there's going to be conflicts in between. A lot of times the midshipmen will get together in their own groups and say, hey, next month my family's planning on having a party on Tuesday night. When is your family thinking about doing it? To have a company-wide party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard because there's so many factors. There's sports teams some sports teams are still in season. Hopefully we'll have a couple of, would love to have our lacrosse team still playing during that time period, right? So that comes into your schedule as well. Wednesday's the grab ball, so that's a popular event. Some people are all in on grab ball, some people aren't. Thursday's a pretty quiet night, but it's also the night right before graduation. So Tuesday night, maybe Sunday night, but everyone's not in town on Sunday. So it really is, it is challenging. It's tough. if you figure it out, let me know for next year and I'll let the parents know. Yes, ma'am. So there's no tickets for grab ball. You can go with your midshipman. There's a variety of attire. Some people are very, very formal with it. Some people are just, you know, sport coat and dress or whatever and that kind of thing. But it's a, talk to your midshipman about that. They'll give them some guidance on that. Now realize there is a capacity in Dahlgren Hall, particularly with the boxing rings in place. So there may be a fire code capacity that, hey, we're limiting people at the, I'm not sure how hard they police that now. I know there was a couple years in there where they tried to police that after the state. There's not food at that event. It's mostly drink. There's probably some light snacks. Yeah. They have to serve light snacks, so they're serving alcohol. I don't know. Okay, so the question is invitations not being sold in the mid store, and about can I reuse artwork. So I'm not sure about the artwork. I have to look and see what you have there. We had the midshipman store downstairs today. Did you talk to them downstairs today? And they're not selling? So when you go on to navalacademyonline.com and look for graduate, okay, all right. A lot of those things are on there, so you may, okay. They're sold out? Okay. The class crest logo is owned by the, let me refer this one to Lori and see if we can't find an answer on that one. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. Okay, so handicap seating. So there is limited amount of handicap seating in the stadium. So again, if you have accessibility issues, recommend getting there early. Inside of all the vomitorium areas here, I hate that name, but in these little areas are typically handicap seating sections. And there's not an unlimited amount, but there is a sufficient amount. So it may not be in the area of your company seating, or you may just want to get there early, check with the ushers there, and they'll help you find that, that location. Yes, ma'am. It should probably be. So the question was, if you have someone with disability, do they need to bring their handicap? I would probably say it should probably be pretty obvious. If they're going to need, if they're going to want to sit in the handicap seating area, they should probably be in a wheelchair. If they can move and they're ambulatory, then you'll just find a seating near the aisle where it's convenient. If that makes sense. Yes, ma'am. No. It should. So the question is wheelchair storage. It should be very similar to football games. So if you're going to be in a wheelchair, I would probably plan on sitting in a accessible seating area, and then just sitting in the near proximity to your family member. Yes, ma'am. Photos for graduates. So so that's a great question. They have a contracted photographer that will be at the stage and will take pictures of your graduate crossing the stage. Lori over here, one of the things that one of the programs that she runs is our internal photo program. So we will have our photographers there, and they will also post photos candids and the photos that we take, and that'll be on our webpage for those parents that are members, that are alumni members and part of our photo program. Did I get that right, Lori? Okay. Yes, ma'am. So great question. I would actually ask them that question in consultation with their chain of command. The question was, when do the midshipmen have to move out of their rooms? I understand that they get the opportunity to sign chits and sign contracts out in town toward the end of April, and they will allow them to start moving out into apartments out in town. I think sometimes there's a little bit of a, there's a gray area of when they must move out from their perspective and from the Naval Academy's perspective. Those dates are slightly different. I think they try to encourage them, and most of them are very eager to get out of Bancroft Hall when they're allowed to. If there's an issue where your midshipman does not have a place to go, they still belong to the U.S. government. So the U.S. government will find them a place to stay if they absolutely need one. I've heard that before. They kicked us out of Bancroft Hall. Well, that's not exactly right, but they're pretty. It doesn't take a lot of compelling, to get them out of there, and so if that makes sense. But the exact details on that, I'd really need to go back to their company officers and the commandant's office. Yes, ma'am. It's really going to be where you can find accessible seating for the wheelchair. And because I told you kind of where they are, like inside the little vomitorium areas right in here. So that may or may not exactly line up with your company seating. So I would just recommend getting there early and then there's going to be plenty of people in choker whites there as ushers. Talk to an usher early and they'll accommodate you and help you find good seating. Yes. Okay. Second question. About getting Chris Morgenthaler at the Athletic Association, and her name and contact info, her email is listed in the program that we had here for today. Yes, ma'am. Okay, 3. When do they find out if they get awards? It depends on what the award is. Some of them are driven by order of merit, and they're not determined until right before commissioning week. And believe it or not, sometimes who's number one in the class is not determined until pretty late in the game. So it probably depends. Some may know if they're a team captain and they're going to get an award. They probably already know that, right? So it just really depends on the award and your midshipman. Okay, 2. Hat toss with kids. They can. What do the kids do with the hats? They're welcome to keep them if they want. I think my kids have a box of 4 or 5 of them. I'm not sure why, but they do. My plebe has 4 in his room, and I'm like, you got your own now? What are you going to do with them? So over to your kids. But a lot of them like them as the souvenirs. A lot of them are digging through them looking for the money and chunking the hat as quick as they can. So it just kind of depends on your child. Okay, question 3. Okay. No, they're not specific seats. They are a general seating section, but they're not assigned seats. And I would recommend, again, get there early to ensure that you're going to get seats together as a family, because you may find out the enforcement of the barriers of those might not be really tight. Yes, ma'am. There will definitely be food sold at the stadium. What's that? You will not be able to bring food in. I think they'll let you. I think if you go back to the clear bag policy, I think they might let you bring a bottle of water in, and that may change in a presidential year. Yes, ma'am. The question is, when do we find out if it's a Secret Service year? As soon as the president sets their schedule for which service academy they will attend, then the rest of the schedule kind of falls into place. So the answer is it depends, and it depends on what the president and then the Secretary of Defense decide. So it generally is decided. If we get into March, late March, early April, we
Right.
should. Yes, ma'am. Okay, what is the difference between the superintendent reception and the garden party? It's the same thing. On the schedule, it'll say superintendent's reception. It is in the garden, so most of us call it the garden party. Not at all. Have a grand time. Enjoy. I mean, it really is. Now, it's going to be a hot day. Some of the days might be hot. Some of the days might be long. You may have to accommodate that with the range of your children, but the yard is a fun place to be. Plenty of things for all the members of your family, and you may just look at the schedule and the length of the day and make some determinations about how long you can go with the toddlers and with older kids. Yes, sir. So those the question was the purple seats on here, and again that was a slide from a year or two past. It may change a little bit. On the gold side, that was the faculty and staff, and then on the blue side, that was the superintendents and commandant staff. They would sit in they're going to sit top 10%. They're going to sit in these rows right here. What's that, parents? Parents, we don't. I think you're just going to get seats corresponding with your company area, I believe. But I don't. That's a question I'm going to go back and ask and get some clarification on. I'm sorry. They're going to walk across the stage right to left. They're going to line up. They're going to be in numerical order, and they're going to go number 1 in the class, and they're going to walk across the stage that way. Yes, ma'am. Oh, absolutely, by bus or walking aboard the yard. Absolutely. It's not the gates. So the question is about, can you get on the yard during the when the air show box is active? And the answer is yes. You can get on the yard during that time period if you're walking aboard or coming aboard on one of the buses. But you won't be able to drive aboard during that time period. There will be, there are food trucks all over the yard throughout the day. There are plenty of places to get food and drink. Yes, sir. Gate 3 will be open most of commissioning week, and you'll have to go to the web page, and there's actually a box on gate hours, and I'll show you exactly what the times are.
Keep in mind, like walking on is probably the best way when people live in Eastport, or if you've got walking on is absolutely the best way. But we have seen hundreds of people lined up outside of gate 3 as the show is starting because they thought they could just walk on and just walk right in, and it took them a half an hour to get through that gate.
You still have to be screened, walk through a metal detector. So if you're going to color parade at 11 o'clock on Thursday or whatever it is, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Anyway, get there early. Give yourself plenty of time to get through the gate. Yes, sir. Military IDs, you should be fine for driving on off the yard, except for during the show box windows of the air show, and they just restrict it to faculty and staff.
And your midshipmen will be able to drive on and off, even though DBIDs, but remind them that there's so much going on that usually what takes them 5 minutes to drive on the yard and find a place to park might take them an hour. Right. So,
So if you're handicapped and you have your hang tag, they will allow you onto the yard, any of the handicap parking that's available on the yard, and they'll usually reserve like the entire mid-store parking lot or a good chunk of the mid-store parking lot for accessibility parking.
It just might not be close to where you're trying to get to.
Yes. Yes. Now, again, so there's some variations on how they did it last year and how they do it this year. So I'm giving you the information as of how we did it last year. Yes, ma'am. They get very specific muster instructions from the commandant staff. They get there very early and are usually back behind the horseshoe, behind the 53 pavilion. they muster back there very early in the morning. And they will want to be on time for that one.
They can drive their own car. You can drive them.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can drive,
as long
that's
as they're
right.
there on time.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And then you can tailgate and have breakfast in the parking lot. You can clear security early. Yes, ma'am, exactly. Yes, sir. Did you?
The tickets that are available outside of the six assigned, are they assigned as well, or is it just a free for all?
It's a free for all. Yeah. There's generally ample good seats, and you're going to see with large scoreboards in the stadium, you're going to have good visibility of. I usually watch graduation on the scoreboard, so it's you'll have plenty of great opportunities to see. Yes, ma'am. What's that?
Yes.
You can absolutely walk on via. You can absolutely walk on via Gate 8. For the Blue Angel Day, I think they'll allow you to bring food onto the yard. They're not going to stop that. As long as you're not bringing in really, really big coolers and big tents and things like that. Any final questions? But I will stay back here and answer any questions you might have. One last thing I did not say, and I did this twice. Give me just one more second. So we actually have a raffle here too. So my job here at the Alumni Associations, I run our building here. So this wonderful facility that we have here, the Pflugerville Alumni Center, we highly encourage, if you're a parent member of the Alumni Association, your sons and daughters are alumni members, this is a fantastic place. If you need a place for a graduation party, particularly for your second class or maybe third class parents, sort of planning in out years. And then also keep us in mind when your sons and daughters are getting married and need a place to come back and do a wedding reception. Downstairs Reinemann space is just a beautiful facility for that, and we love to serve our alumni. And you're welcome back here at any time. Kathleen's going to do a quick raffle, and then I'll stand back and answer any additional questions you might have. Thank you.
Knife block.
Okay, ticket number 7519.
Woo,
Boom. There we go.
man,
2 in a row.
2 in a row. First ticket, hand right up.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
y'all.
it.
Donnie. Yeah. Hey, nice to meet you, Chip. Yeah. Oh, great. All right. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I already got the word. Let me make
Yeah.
sure I answer.
Yes, you were the one we were
folks
talking
that might have
about. Oh,
questions.
that's good.
You're very
That's good. So
welcome.
that's all set.
I can answer any questions
No,
as
he's
well
fine.
if you guys need anything. Hi, Catherine. Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Well, good to, I'm from,
They'll probably
right outside of
actually
Jackson,
get those
Mississippi.
tickets in early May.
Yeah, me too. Well, the superintendent was actually, so I was
Yeah, they'll get 'em all.
92, she was
The commandant's
89.
office will go down
She was
through their
actually one of
company
my first
officers
class,
and tell them,
and her
say,
husband,
here are your
Keith,
tickets.
was
And then
my
the
second class.
bartering starts,
So
right?
they
Like,
were
hey,
actually
I only have
that
just
wouldn't
my mom
happen
and
now.
dad
They